House Democrats have announced 2 articles of impeachment against the president stemming from their investigation into his dealings with Ukraine. The president insists he did nothing wrong. A full House vote could come as early as next week. The 2 charges are narrow in scope: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. There's no mention of bribery, extortion, or obstruction of justice, issues that Democrats had debated.
President Trump engaged in unprecedented, categorical, and indiscriminate defiance of the impeachment inquiry.
The way they have handled this from the very beginning, I know they set a timeline and they wanted to keep to their timeline. They just never paid attention to the facts.
The president has said he looks forward to a trial in the Republican-controlled Senate, which is expected early next year. Before a Senate trial, the Judiciary Committee must first debate and pass the articles of impeachment, then send them to the full House for a vote.
And on the same day as unveiling their articles of impeachment, House Democrats announce a big deal with the White House on trade. The 2 say they have a deal to move forward with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, President Trump's long-promised replacement of NAFTA. The White House wanted the deal finalized before the 2020 election, but House Democrats pushed for more provisions on labor, environment, and pharmaceuticals. This deal was great news to Wisconsin dairy farmers today, who have been hoping for revised trade with 2 of their top exporters in the world. Amy Reed joins us now to show us what they are most excited for in this new agreement.
Yeah, dairy farmers have been going through kind of a rough time in the last few years. There's a lot packed into why, but the man I talked to today said trade deals that didn't work in their favor were the final nail. But even with a House vote on this coming as soon as next week, industry experts warn there's still work to be done on trade.
They always, they like their little safe space, so they
Mitch Breinig is one of the lucky ones. If not for his coworkers, then for his farm's continued success, despite what others see.
I have a market, and thank goodness I have a market, because some farmers haven't been so lucky.
He said big markets started closing about 3 years ago when Canada said they'd stop taking ultra-filtered milk from the U.S. A former high demand seemed to disappear overnight.
And it was really disappointing that, sort of politics came into play and really affected family farms that had been in business for a long, long time.
In terms of our work here,
today he hopes signals change for that, with national leaders announcing they're ready to vote on a new trade agreement with Mexico, our #1 dairy foods exporter, and Canada, our #3. Wisconsin state and national lawmakers are hopeful too. Representative Brian Stiles saying the trade deal is a win for Wisconsin, for our dairy and manufacturing industries, and for middle-class families. Legislators say the deal cuts the Canadian program that blocked some U.S. milk Breinig mentioned and has increased labor and environmental standards. But dairy industry expert Mark Stevenson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison told us over the phone this deal gets us back to where we were with Mexico in the original NAFTA. And since the country had begun to look other places for dairy, more work needs to be done to repair the relationship. That will come from good service.
And just looking to see if the feed is mixed well. And
brought to you by Wisconsin farmers like Breinig.
Everything's done right so we can have a nutritious diet in front of our cows.
He knows it'll take work, but with an agreement in place, the future for him and his coworkers will hopefully be brighter.
Anything that we can do to have a higher milk price really makes a difference on our family's farm and investing for the future and being able to stay in business.
Dairy is just a small piece of this agreement, but other trade deals are helping the industry too, including a somewhat recent agreement with Japan that Stevenson said is in its first phase of implementation.